Okay, so this is the recording for the first part of the integumentary system. The integumentary system gets its name from one of the three words for the main or primary organ in the system. So the word integument is the same as the cutaneous membrane, one of three types of membranes in the body. And we also refer to it as the skin. The cutaneous membrane means you have layers of epithelial tissue and connective tissues. This is going to be the outer covering for the body. The system includes other structures, which we refer to as accessory structures. So here you have an up-close picture of a hair follicle. And here you have a representation of a segment of skin. Now, this is our first organ system, and the way I do organ systems is we start with the functions for the system. You should have your integumentary notes section of your lab, so you can fill these in. Over here, you have again that representation of the skin, and you have a lovely picture of a dust mite. The dust mite is a teeny tiny creature, insect, that lives off of our dead skin cells. First function, physical barrier. It keeps water in. It keeps things like sunlight and bacteria and other pathogens out. So if the skin is damaged, it means we can't keep water in and we can't keep the sunlight and bacteria and other pathogens out. So keeping an intact integumentary system, especially the skin, is a must in order to maintain that. So the whole thing is one function, physical barrier, keeping some things out and some things in. Regulation of body temperature. It helps to elevate and to diminish the body temperature. We have blood vessels, which you can see here. They can vasodilate and vasoconstrict, but their placement and the number of blood vessels is going to contribute to our ability to regulate temperature. So if we open up those blood vessels, then we can release more heat. If we narrow them and move them deeper, we can conserve heat. We have glands that help release sweat on the surface, and that's going to help us cool off two ways. Moving the sweat onto the surface pulls heat with it because it's maintained at the body temperature. The other way that we cool things off is by transpiration. The evaporation of the sweat on the surface of the skin pulls even more heat out of the body. We have hair follicles and erector pili muscles that will elevate the hair, because usually your hair lays up against the skin, but the arthropuli muscle is going to elevate that hair. It creates a pocket of air that it traps at the surface and helps us to warm up. Goosebumps is what you see as that. Secretion of sebum, sweat, pheromones, melanin, keratin, and vitamin D. So, making lots of different things. All right, so the sebum is going to be used to waterproof the skin. The sebum is it's a waterproofing oil. Helps to keep moisture in the skin. The sweat is a way to get rid of waste products like heat, excess electrolytes. Sweat is a way to alter fluid levels. Pheromones is placed in some types of sweat. So you have more than one kind of sweat. You have the sweat that helps you cool off and get rid of waste products. And then you have the sweat with the pheromones. The sweat with pheromones the pheromones are odors, chemicals. They're chemicals that we emit out into the world. So as animals, we use pheromones with regulating and coordinating menstrual cycles, like in groups of women that work closely together or live together. Other animals use it as an attractant and as a deterrent. They can use it to mark territories. They can use it to mark a trail back to a food source. Like with ants, they all show up in a big long line. Bees use it to mark a line back to a food source. Pheromones are also an attractant for mates and can indicate when mating is desirable. It's also part of the things that some people we meet and we just don't like them. Our pheromones don't like their pheromones, or we don't like their pheromones. Some people we meet and we're immediately attracted to. Okay, so it's the pheromones compatibility. All right, melanin is an orangish brown pigment. It is produced to reduce the impact of ultraviolet light. Keratin is a waterproofing protein. We produce keratin throughout the skin, throughout the epidermis. We dump it into hair follicles. We also have it highly concentrated in nails. Vitamin D, which to produce that, we have to be exposed to sunlight. You have to have vitamin D in order to move calcium through cell membranes. Okay. Immunity. So not only is the skin a physical barrier, but it also has phagocytes that gobble up pathogens. We also have cells that secrete antimicrobial substances to prevent cell division in bacteria. prevent cellular respiration, houses numerous sensory receptors. You have thermoreceptors detecting temperature. You have pain receptors, or nociceptors is their true name, scattered throughout. And that's why a paper cut typically hurts worse than a deeper cut, because you got more nerve endings when you disturb the epidermis and beginning of the dermis. So you constantly irritating that. We have pressure sensors for our mechanical receptors, baroreceptors for pressure, vibration, texture, those kinds of things. Excretion of waste products. Going back to the sweat, we can get rid of excess water, we can get rid of excess heat, and we can get rid of excess electrolytes. So functions of the integumentary system. Now, difference of opinion between the author of the textbook and myself and how I was taught. So this is how you're going to get taught. The textbook includes muscle or facial expressions. Well, those facial expressions are only accomplished by the muscles underneath the skin of the face. So I am not including those because you don't have skeletal muscle in the integumentary system. All right. So functions of the integumentary system. The primary organ in this system is the skin. The skin, or integument, is divided into 3 regions. So you have the epidermis is the superficial layer. Deep to that is the dermis. And deep to that is what we call the hypodermis, or subcutaneous region or layer. The subcutaneous layer is what's going to be adhered to the muscle or bone deep to that layer. The thickness varies throughout the body. Your thickest skin is in the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. Your thinnest skin is your scalp. So these are regions of the skin, not layers. These are segments of an organ, because an organ has to have multiple types of tissues. In addition to the skin, we also have the accessory structures. So you have several of them labeled here. The sebaceous gland is going to secrete sebum. It secretes the sebum into the epidermis and onto the hair follicles. Now, the hair follicle includes the root, the hair bulb, the hair shaft. So all of this is referred to as a hair follicle. There are different components to the hair follicle. The apocrine glands are not drawn correctly. They should be much bigger, but yes, they empty into the hair follicle. These are the special type of sweat glands that secrete sweat with pheromones. They're limited to the axilla, the breast tissue, and the groin area. The pillow erector muscle, which is also referred to as the erector pili muscle, is anchored to the hair follicle. That's going to help with temperature regulation. And then we also see mirroring glands, which are drawn to scale. They do not empty into a hair follicle, but onto the surface of the skin. And so that's what we see here with these openings. Mirroring glands are the ones that are spread throughout the body, and they secrete the sweat that helps us get rid of waste products and help us cool off. In addition to these structures, there are some that you can't see in this picture. Your nails, toenails, fingernails are also accessory structures. They are highly keratinized epidermis that cover the distal and dorsal ends of the fingers and toes. In addition, we also have ceruminous glands. The ceruminous glands are special glands located in your ear that secrete wax. So, accessory structures for the integumentary system. The first region, superficial region, is the epidermis. It's composed of stratified squamous epithelium. When you identify the epidermis, you have to state the tissue present, which would be stratified squamous epithelium. Now, it's important to note that it's not a flat, straight line between the epidermis and the dermis. Okay, dermis, epidermis, if they were drawn next to each other. Okay, it's wavy for a certain reason. The waviness or uneven surface is because it creates a better adhesion or attachments, kind of like the suture in between two of the bones of the skull. The overlapping edges creates a better anchor. It would be very easy to separate if it was a flat, straight surface. Within the epidermis, you have certain types of cells. And I don't know if this matches the right order, but this is how they were ordered on the labeled on the diagram. So the most numerous of the special cell types are the keratinocytes. Oops, here we go. They're specialized to produce keratin, the waterproofing protein. Highly or overproducing, highly concentrated in nail beds and in hair follicles. Dendritic cells, the green one, sorry for the dog. Dendritic cells are the ones that help with immunity. They provide phagocytosis and antimicrobial substances. Tactile cells, the little blue star, is going to increase the range of sensitivity for sensory receptors. So if we think of the surface area of the tip of a finger versus the surface area of the palm of your hand. If we just had the receptor organ, this is how much area would be sensitive to that stimulus. With the tactile cell, it increases the range of sensitivity. So you have a bigger, broader area. The fourth type of specialized cells are the melanocytes. And those are mostly down here in the deep part of the epidermis. Notice they have little finger-like extensions. That's going to carry the pigment out. So these are the ones that secrete melanin, the orangish-brown pigment that helps reduce the impact of sunlight. The number of melanocytes in every person is the same. The amount of melanin that's produced is different. We also have melanocytes in the hair follicles. There are different types of melanin that are produced, and we'll see that a bit later. Okay, so 4 specialized types of cells embedded in the epidermis. Next, we have the layers. And yes, you have to put the word stratum with each layer. So, stratum basal or stratum basale. Couple of different pronunciations depending on where you learned the word. If you learn the word in a zoology setting about animals, you typically pronounce it basale. Basal is how we pronounce it if you learned it from a botanist. So obviously, I learned it from a botanist. Sorry. So the stratum basal is a single row of cells in the deepest part of the epidermis where most of the cell division occurs. Basale or basal, think basement, like in a house. Stratum spinosum is the thickest layer. Oops. More superficial than the stratum basale or basal. It's where the cells are spreading out and maturing. Most of the keratinocytes are secreting keratin. So stratum spinosum, spreading out, maturing, lots of space needed to do that. The next one is stratum granulosum, and that's this dark purple layer. Stratum granulosum is where the cells begin to die. So kind of think of grandparents, they're older. The grainy appearance is because they're getting old. Compressing, getting smaller. Stratum lucidum is the next one. The stratum lucidum is only found in your thickest skin. It's this thin, transparent layer. It's only found in the soles of the feet and the palms of your hands. So stratum lucidum, you can look through it. And then on the surface, you have stratum corneum. That's the superficial layer of dead cells. And then scraped, when you exfoliate, you scrape off the surface. So, stratum corneum, dead cells. If you tell a corny joke on stage, you can die, get thrown off the stage. Stratum lucidum, you can look through this, but it's only found on the soles and the palms. Granulosum, stratum granulosum, it's grainy, it's old, it's dying. Stratum spinosum, they're spreading out, maturing, secreting lots of keratin. Stratum basal is the deepest. It's where most of the cell division occurs. It's anchored to the dermis. You can also see those layers here. Stratum corneum, the dead cells. Stratum granulosum. Stratum spinosum. Oops. And stratum corneum, there's stratum basal, this very deepest row. All of this dark blue is the dermis. Again, different thicknesses. The epidermis can vary in thickness, the dermis can vary in thickness. Yeah. Okay. 3 factors that determine skin color. The amount of melanin secreted varies in different segments of the population. Amount of carotene, note the spelling, deposited in stratum corneum and hypodermis. Carotene is a yellowish orange pigment. A lot of plants like carrots and sweet potatoes have lots of carotene. In a vitamin version is referred to as beta carotene. The amount of carotene can also depend on your diet. Goober number 5. We thought she was going to turn orange because for a month and a half, all she ate was sweet potatoes. And then she decided to eat green beans for the next month and a half. Thankfully, chlorophyll doesn't deposit in your skin. The third is the amount of hemoglobin in the blood passing through the vessels. You can see this when you get an infection. That area gets darker because of the increased blood flow. When you get scared, your skin gets paler because it drains all out or it reduces in volume. So 3 things determine skin color. Keep in mind, this is not genetics class. This is anatomy and physiology. So these are the 3 things that determine skin color. There are things that regulate the amount of melanin production, and that is not what we're here to discuss. So, lots of melanin, very little melanin. Okay, so 2 different kinds of melanin produced. Where and the quantity can determine hair color. So you have blonde, black, and red. Now, gray and white hair. In gray hair, we stop making melanin. So it changes the pigmentation. In white hair, this airspace develops during the production of the hair follicle. And so without any pigment and this air pocket, it causes white hair. The age at which this occurs depends on genetics. Again, not our purview. The pattern that it follows, also controlled by genetics. It also shows you the difference between straight hair and curly or wavy hair. So it's the shape of the follicle. Round for straight hair, oval for curly or wavy hair. Also, something that tends to happen as we get older, the hair follicle shape can alter. So with the airspace, it can collapse, and so the hair might become slightly curlier. Okay, the dermis is the middle region of the skin. It's typically the thickest layer. It's composed of dense irregular tissue, which we see here, and areolar tissue. The areolar tissue helps to anchor the dense irregular to the epidermis and to help anchor it to the subcutaneous layer. So dense irregular allows for all of the accessory structures, blood vessels, and nerves to have a place within and not be obscured by a pattern of collagen fibers. Here we see a blood vessel within the epidermis. Deep to the dermis, you have the hypodermis, or subcutaneous layer. It's a mixture of adipose tissue and areolar tissue, which is what we see here. There are some accessory organs in this area, mostly hair follicles. So that's the end of part A. You will need to make drawings. You have 2 boxes. One is marked epidermis with melanocytes. This is on high power so that you can see those melanocytes here, here, and here. So that's one of the drawings that you need to make. Down here is the dermis, but you're going to look at that on low power. This dark pink is dermis. So is this. And then the hypodermis is what we see here and here. And that will be the second drawing that you make. These are, and then we will finish the rest of this in part B.